Imagine a man who seems calm, educated, almost unremarkable, yet in reality, he was one of the most influential strategists of his time. Gustav Stresemann, Nobel Peace Prize winner. The savior of Germany, or a cold, calculated power politician? What if his calm demeanor was just a mask? The underestimated politician. At first glance, Gustav Stresemann didn't look like a man who would shape the fate of a nation. No towering presence, no fiery speeches that shook crowds, no dramatic gestures meant to command attention. He appeared ordinary, calm, measured, almost forgettable in a political world dominated by loud personalities. But that was precisely where his strength lay, because power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it moves quietly. While others fought for attention, Stresemann focused on influence. While others tried to dominate the moment, he worked to shape the outcome. He didn't need to be the loudest voice in the room. He just needed to be the one thinking 3 steps ahead. And that made him far more dangerous than those who relied on charisma alone. Introverted, but extremely focused. Many of his contemporaries described him as reserved, even distant. A man who spoke less, but thought more. There was a certain heaviness to his presence, almost melancholic, but beneath that calm surface was a mind constantly analyzing, calculating, refining. He wasn't reactive, he was deliberate. And in politics, that difference matters more than most people realize. While others were driven by emotion, by public pressure, by the urgency of the moment, Stresemann remained composed. He listened carefully. He observed quietly. And when he finally acted, it wasn't impulsive, it was precise. That ability to stay controlled in chaos gave him an advantage that few could match. Because in a world where everyone is rushing to act, the one who pauses often ends up in control. Ambition as his driving force. But beneath that calm exterior was something far more intense. Ambition. Not the loud, obvious kind that seeks recognition, but a deeper, more calculated ambition. Stresemann didn't just want success. He wanted impact. He wanted to shape the direction of history itself. And he understood a fundamental truth that many politicians never fully grasp: emotions win applause, but strategy wins power. He wasn't interested in short-term victories or public approval. He was playing a longer game, one where every move had to serve a greater purpose. Every decision had to fit into a broader plan. And that meant making choices that weren't always popular, but were often effective. His ambition wasn't about being seen. It was about being remembered. Change or strategy? This is where things become more complex. Earlier in his career, Stresemann held strong nationalistic views. He supported policies that aligned with a more traditional vision of German power. But later, he became one of the leading voices for diplomacy and cooperation in Europe. A transformation that, on the surface, seems almost contradictory. And it raises an important question: was this genuine change or strategic adaptation? After the devastation of World War I, Germany was broken, economically, politically, and psychologically. The old approach no longer worked. And Stresemann recognized that faster than most. He understood that survival required a different strategy. Peace wasn't just an ideal, it was a necessity. But that doesn't necessarily make him an idealist. It makes him pragmatic. He didn't abandon his goals. He adjusted his methods. And that distinction is crucial. Because sometimes what looks like change is actually adaptation. The power of control. Stresemann had a deep understanding of perception. He knew that people trust what feels stable, what feels calm, and he used that to his advantage. While other leaders raised their voices, he lowered his. While others reacted emotionally, he remained composed. And in doing so, he created an image of reliability, of reason, of control. But control, in itself, is a form of power. Because the person who appears calm often becomes the person others look to in moments of uncertainty. Stresemann didn't need to dominate conversations. He guided them. He didn't force outcomes. He shaped them. And that subtle difference allowed him to influence events without drawing attention to the mechanisms behind that influence. It wasn't about authority, it was about direction. A man full of contradictions. Trying to define Stresemann with a single label doesn't work. He doesn't fit neatly into categories. He was nationalistic, yet diplomatic. Conservative in many ways, yet flexible when necessary. Emotional in his private reflections, yet remarkably controlled in public life. These contradictions weren't weaknesses. They were strengths. Because they allowed him to move between worlds, to adapt to changing circumstances without losing sight of his objectives. And in a time as unstable as post-war Germany, that ability to adapt wasn't just useful, it was essential. The most powerful figures are rarely the most rigid. They are the ones who can shift, adjust, and recalibrate without losing control of the bigger picture. Stresemann understood that, and he used it to navigate one of the most fragile periods in German history. The diplomat who reshaped Germany's position. One of Stresemann's most significant achievements came through diplomacy. He worked to reintegrate Germany into the international community at a time when it was largely isolated. Through agreements like the Locarno Treaties, he helped stabilize relations between Germany and its former enemies. This wasn't just about peace, it was about positioning. About restoring Germany's credibility on the global stage. And it worked. In 1926, Germany was admitted into the League of Nations, a move that symbolized its return to international diplomacy. For this, Stresemann was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. But even here, the question remains, was this purely about peace or about rebuilding Germany's power through different means? Perhaps it was both. And that's what makes his legacy so complex. Crisis management and economic survival. Stresemann's influence wasn't limited to foreign policy. Domestically, he played a critical role in stabilizing Germany during one of its most chaotic periods. The early 1920s were marked by hyperinflation so extreme that money lost its value almost overnight. The economy was collapsing, public confidence was shattered, and political instability was growing. Stresemann stepped in during this crisis and made difficult decisions, including ending passive resistance in the Ruhr and supporting the introduction of a new currency. These moves were controversial, they were criticized, but they were necessary, and over time they helped stabilize the economy. It wasn't a perfect recovery, but it was a turning point. A moment where control was regained, at least temporarily. Why he's still relevant today. Even today, Stresemann's story feels surprisingly modern. We still live in a world where perception shapes power, where calmness is often mistaken for harmlessness, where diplomacy is sometimes seen as weakness. But Stresemann challenges those assumptions. He shows us that control can be more powerful than aggression, that strategy can achieve what force cannot, and that intelligence, when combined with patience, can reshape entire systems. But he also raises uncomfortable questions. Does effectiveness justify method? Does success define morality? And can someone be both a stabilizing force and a calculated power player at the same time? The legacy of a silent strategist. In the end, Gustav Stresemann remains a figure who resists simple interpretation. He was not just a peacemaker, not just a politician, but a strategist operating in a world where every decision carried weight. He didn't rely on spectacle, he relied on precision, and that allowed him to achieve what louder figures often could not. He helped stabilize a collapsing nation, he reshaped Germany's role in Europe, and he did it all without ever becoming the center of attention, which, perhaps, was his greatest strength of all. Gustav Stresemann was more than just a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He was strategic, ambitious, controlled, and perhaps far more calculating than people realize. What do you think? Was he a true savior or a brilliant power politician? Let me know in the comments. And make sure to like and subscribe.